How do I make it go? Hello, welcome to the video. Today we're going to take a look at the Falklands map. So we're all waiting for DCS 2.9 to drop, and while we wait for it, or even if it has dropped, I want to take another look at the Falklands map. Now, I'm somebody that buys up all the modules as of when they come out, and Falklands Islands map was no exception. When I first got this, I can't remember if I reviewed it per se or if I just had a sort of a few comments on it flying around in other videos. But what I did do was say, get rid of the shades, I don't need those. What I did do or say was that it was crap, basically. There have, however, been 2, if not 3 major updates to this map. And so I thought, you know what, let's take another look. And I realize again, for some people, they only ever want to see the latest and greatest thing. They don't care about what was released last year. Even if it was just updated last week, it's no longer, oh, I want the new thing, give me the new thing. It's DCS 2.9, that's all I care about. Oh, when's the Phantom 4 coming out? And it's like, yeah, but what about, you said that for the last 20 modules that came out. They came, you got them, and then all that you was wanting was the next thing. Anyway, so let's have a look at Falklands. Again, I was very critical of this map. One of the things I pointed out on the Falkland Islands, and just going to plonk ourselves down, let's use the F-15. Let's make sure that we are the pilot here, and let's change the roll to nothing, just so I can have a clean wing and we'll fly around. We will cover a few different parts of the map. I'll just move us around this way. But one of the things that was, big criticism of mine was there were no trees at all on the Falkland Islands. No shrubbery, no bushes, no nut. And somebody says, oh, well, that's because there aren't any. And I'm thinking, by the way, everybody who ever criticizes you on YouTube that's the voice they have. Oh, well, no. Anyways, lo and behold, there's an update, and I don't know if the developer listened to what I said or whether it was that time, and they added some trees, some bushes, shrubs. And yeah, you're right. If you look on the Falklands, a lot of the pictures from that place, it is very barren, but it's not 100% barren. There is the odd bush, and they have now done that. And so let's go ahead, take a look. And diving down then. Oh yeah, so here we go. So this is the main base. And now one thing for those of you that don't have the map, I will show you. If you come down low of the runway, you will see there are these arrestor wire cable points there. Now the last time I flew and I put the hook down in the F-18 to test, they're not actually modeled. So there's just what appears to be a wire, and it sticks out. So if you're in an aircraft, you think, I don't want my little wheels getting tangled up in that on takeoff. Doesn't make any difference. It's a bit like flying through a power wire in a jet. It sort of sets the power wire on fire but doesn't cause any damage to you. Fly through it in a helicopter, obviously it's a different kettle of fish entirely. And so the Falkland Islands was, I can't remember if it was the first one, but it was one of the maps where the module makers, as you can see, were using satellite photo imagery, which is a great idea, right? To get the textures right. They get the height elevation map, they wrap one over the other, and Bob's your uncle. And basically that's what this map was to begin with. But you'll know, if you look on Google Earth and scroll around, or Bing Maps, or whatever the one that you pick, there'll be these horrible parts on the map where different sort of colours touch against each other. There'll be clouds in the way on, all of that sort of stuff. And all of that was available to see on this map. And again, very, very sparse on things. But if we come down now, yes, you'll see it is still a particularly barren map. And again, in large part, that's because the Falkland Islands is. See, there's little rivers or streams cut away. There's little roads there. You see, there is a lot of detail on the stream. Lots of twists and turns, lakes and so on. But you can see, as I come low here on the sat photo, there are little objects here and there, pictures of these objects that just aren't modeled. And again, is it possible to model absolutely everything I don't think so. There you can see very distinctly is an area of, you know, I would say shrubbery or trees or some sort of greenery. And again, you just see the sort of top-down photo of it. And so there is still that aspect to it. But if we come over to somewhere where there is, hang on, let's just have a little look on the map. And I will okay, we're right here. Great. Okay, so Goose Green, as it's called. Let's speed up time just a tad. Here we go. And come back to normal time. So I want you to observe now, if I just zoom the view in a tad, there are now lots of trees around the town, only around the town. We see there's bushes, shrubbery or small trees, and I'm sure somebody can give us the Wikipedia definition of when does a bush become a shrub, become a tree, whatever. You know, not really the purpose of this video to explore those sort of things. But what you can see there is clearly in some parts of the map on the Falkland Islands, they have gone and included some of these things now. Again, it's a little bit sporadic, you know, so we've got a load here, you know, we see a load more over there. Quite a lot following, you know, this particular area here. So there are trees. So those that say, oh, well, there are any. Yeah, there are. Look. But what I maintain is, okay, so you've got a shed load of trees there. Are you really saying there's that many trees there and not a single tree anywhere else on the map? Is this an improvement? Well, let me just say, this is a vast improvement over what the Falkland Islands looks like on release. I still think there's a little ways to go. I mean, again, here you can see there's some, whether it's trees, whether it's bushes, whether it's shrubbery, whatever it is, you can see that there is there. And, you know, they've left it all blank. Let's just have a look. Is that a little building there? No, it's just a black hole in the satellite photo. And so now what we're going to do is move to a different part of the map, because I actually think the Falkland Islands themselves, if you ignore the very specific towns, is probably the worst part of this map, in fairness. Coming over, if we delete our plane there, to the South America area here, Argentina, Chile sort of area, we will take a look. So in the original, I say the original, when this first came out, by far the highest detailed area was this area here. They've since added a lot, and we'll take a look at that. But this was by far the highest detailed area. And even on my system, which, you know, is... It's 4090 RTX, 64 gigs of RAM. I've got about 5 or 6 solid state drives. That it is, this area here slowed it right down. Whereas now it actually runs pretty well. And again, I have the settings maxed out, so that's not really an issue. So let's just switch the aircraft round. Let's have a go with the F-16 on this occasion. And once again, set ourselves to... Let's be slick and just, oh, sod it. We'll keep the heat seekers on the wings. Why not? All right, let's go. And again, this is default time, default weather. I've not changed any of that stuff. And obviously, for those who haven't really thought of it, this area of the map is well south of the equator, which means that, you know, the summer winters are back to front. So longer days, shorter days, all of that sort of stuff is literally backwards. Okay, so here we go. Single throttle, so I'll combine those. And we are now in the higher area. And as you can see, as I do the turn, a little bit of scenery loading in there. Let's go ahead and put the afterburners on. You can see the performance, aside from when it's loading stuff in, is actually really nice. And again, I am single player here. There's nothing else going on. But the point is, before the updates, whether it was the first or the second Falkland or the third, I don't know, I can't say, but one of the updates. In other words, if you get this now, as you can see, there is no major lag concerns here. And before, single player with nothing going on over here with the settings on like I like to have it was, you know, it was lagging. And so let's come down. And one thing you will not be short of if you come to the South America side of this map is trees. And as you can see, there are loads of them. Now, in the earlier version, I was also very critical of the way that the trees were done, because it was basically somebody had got a satellite photo, wrapped it around the terrain like we've said, and then just taken these big brush marks and just sort of drawn, like sometimes you literally see a circle as if somebody's just drawn there and then drawn there, and you'd see these circles everywhere. The Caucasus map actually used to be a bit like that years ago. Some of you who've been with DCS a long time may remember that. But now you can still see there are all these little stutters. And again, it's just because it's the first time really I'm flying around this area at all. I mean, months ago I was here. And you can see now the trees are, the way that they've drawn it is not as obvious. Okay, there's a couple of little bald areas there. But again, they're not perfect circles. This here is much better. It seems like they've used an algorithm to draw the trees on in a way that it looks somewhat more realistic. And again, these, you know, for people that don't play DCS or don't understand, these little pauses as DCS is sort of making the cache, and, you know, we're hoping maybe in DCS 2.9 a lot of these stutters will be dealt with, is, you know, the first time you load in, it's making these cache files, and then in theory, if I return back, it should be okay. Now again, clearly it is sat photo, so as we come low over some of this scenery, you know, it starts to fall apart a bit. But what I am impressed with versus before, and I'm just gonna have to pause it as we come over the top of this ridge line here, you can see, yeah, it's a sat photo, but they've done something with it. Can you see there's like a, in fact, that almost looks like fur as I look at this, as I zoom in. And so it's a sat photo together with some synthetic scenery, and they've sort of merged the two. So if you do get very low to it, it doesn't look quite as naff as it used to do. And again, excuse me, that right there is a huge improvement, especially, you know, if you have to fly low, dodging SAMs, you're on helicopter operations, you know, whatever the reason is, it's, you know, massive improvement. So that's this area. So let's just have a little look as we make our way towards this area here. So let's come off the burners, or we'll probably run out of fuel before we get there, and I'll just compress time some. This is actually, aside from going to the Antarctic, for those of you that are into your flight sims, whether it's X-Plane, Microsoft Flight Sim, whatever, and like to fly around, this here and that other airport that we're going to come across to shortly are basically the most southerly airports you can go to without going to the Antarctic that are airliner capable, let's call it like that. And in fact, this next one over here is the biggest, as far as I'm aware, the biggest, most southerly airfield. Certainly, taking a look on Navigraph charts, it would appear to be that way. Speed up time. And here we are, runway in sight. Remember the first time I played on this compression, when I first got my graphics card on that video I did. I don't know when it was, a year or two, whenever the 4090 came out, I sped it up and it was like, oh my goodness, and just rolled it straight into the ground, and it, you know, it did it at 60 frames a second, no matter what speed I had it on. All right, so here we go then. So this here is this southerly airfield, and again, you can see it's a reasonable runway. I don't know if you noticed that other runway's actually got yellow paint markings on versus white. Terminal building there. And by the way, real life, right, I looked at this place in real life, I was just curious because it's one of the largest southernly-most cities, and this is actually perfect here. If I pause now, this is a perfect representation of it. If you look at the real life pictures, you will see, for whatever reason, it is a very colourful place. Lots of people have some very nice, you know, it's not just like here in the UK, houses are either brick red, often they're painted white, or now this sort of more modern grey fascia stuff going on with grey and black. What you don't have is a sort of a Lego assortment of colours, and that is what is here, and you can see that. Another huge plus here to this particular map is when I first flew it, any populated area on South America, it was the same. I'm gonna, you know, I'm sure somebody's gonna call me out on this, but basically the same 10 buildings, and it was like, we'll place them this way, then we'll copy paste the same buildings, we'll rotate, place that way, and then those two things together will become like a tile, and then we'll just go copy, 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 and the entire town was made up like that. Now I get it, not every single building can be unique, don't think I'm that retarded, but what you see here is, okay, there is some evidence of copy pasting, but it's far less obvious than it was before. There's a lot more unique buildings that make it up, and so, you know, if you really try, you could probably say, right, well, I can actually see that this tile here, this particular one, is, if I zoom out and come over here, the same as this one here. But that is not as obvious. You're 4 or 5 tiles away than what it was before, where it was literally every single tile adjoined. And so huge props to this. So I'm going to unpause. And one thing I will say is, like with every review that I do on DCS, I'm not at all paid to do it. I'm not given a map or a module for free. I have to buy it like anybody else, which is the right thing. And I know not everybody else declares that, and I'm not really overly thrilled. You know, I do respect channels that say they are affiliated in some way and make that clear, because if a channel says, oh, I'm reviewing a certain map or a certain plane, and they were given early access to it to do the review, whether they were paid or not is irrelevant, because they're only ever going to say good things. You may say, whoa, I was asked to run a map before anybody had access to it. See here, major pause. And I wasn't paid. And I think, yeah, you weren't paid, because the unwritten rule was, well, and again, unwritten, right? Say good things about this map if you want to get early access to the next thing. And if you don't, well, you won't. And that is how it, you know, that's not just DCS, that's anything. And again, I have been asked to promote stuff on 1 or 2 other things that I do. And by the way, what I am going to take this opportunity while we are flying around again, some very ugly pauses here while stuff loads in for the first time. Interesting colour changes there. Looks like where some snow or ice has melted. A huge shout out to Fox 3 Managed Solutions. Now, Fox 3 Managed Solutions have nothing to do with me or my channel. They're completely separate. We just so happen to share the same first part of the name. They actually reached out to me 3 or 4 months ago offering to sponsor the channel, which was really kind of them. Unfortunately, much as I would have been nice, I was unable to take them up because I've actually been really ill and needed a lot of hospital treatment. It's still not entirely sorted out. I'm also busy with 1 or 2 other things, and I just didn't want the stress of feeling obligated to produce content when I wasn't always sure that I could. And the last thing I wanted to do was just rush out any odd rubbish just so that I'm making videos, because we know those channels are around. I don't want to mention any names, where they just got to constantly produce because that's the deal. And, you know, I certainly would never be tying myself into a daily content type deal. But even, you know, even if it's once a week, twice a week, whatever, it's a commit. Obviously, you get it from the sponsorship side. They want to see a return on their investment, which is understandable. And the thing was, when I basically took a turn for the worse and all this hospital stuff started, I basically contacted the main guy at Managed Solutions. I said, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to, I really want to, but I'm not going to be able to do this. And he was brilliant with me. And so for those who don't know, I do want to give them a shout. And again, they've not paid me a penny to say this. They focus exclusively on DCS. And so if you're thinking about running a server but you don't know how to do it, you basically got 2 choices, right? One of them is you go to an online company that deals with setting up your servers and whatnot, where you get a dedicated server, and then it's up to you to set everything up the right way that you want. Or Fox 3 Managed Solutions, what they do is you pay them, they do the same thing, but they only deal with DCS. So they set the server up on your behalf, they maintain it, they update it, and they do stuff like DCS Liberation. They run that if you're using one of the communication things. let me show. This thing here, DCS simple radio, they'll set that up, SRS should I say, and more things to it. And again, they update everything on your behalf. So it's like your choices between a dedicated server or getting a dedicated server with people that know and care about DCS, and that's all that they do. You know, they're not doing dedicated servers for any game you can think of. It's purely DCS. So I wanted to give them a shout out. And again, the guy was incredibly good with me. You know, when I said I wasn't going to be able to do this, I was a bit nervous, you know, because we'd already gone through the sort of first stages of it. And he says, don't worry about it, and you know, come back if and when you're ready and all of that sort of stuff. So again, if I'm dealing with somebody like that at my end, where I wasn't even a customer, you know, if anything, he was going to be paying me, then I can only imagine how good he is with, you know, for other people. So again, back to the map there. And again, you can see this here to me is beautiful. Look at this. The trees, you know, whether to call this a lake or part of the fjords that come in all the way from the sea, I don't know without looking at the map, but I don't want to ruin it. I mean, look at that. What's not to say beautiful about that? Again, some of these little pauses are a little frustrating. And I'm not sure how much of it is to do with the fact that I am recording all of this live at 1440. I suspect not, because as you can see, it runs perfectly smooth, and other games that I play are always perfectly smooth unless, you know, we're loading, again, what seems to be new areas in. And so here we are in what can only be described as a snowy type scene. Got a fuel notification there to say that we'll be running out before too long. This, I remember years ago, you know, when I used to, before I ever made videos, but I was just like, I don't know, stressed out or something. I found it so relaxing to come on. I usually did it on a server where there was no combat or little combat, and I would, aerobikes, whatever, and I would pick a plane and I would just fly around the, you know, the mountains like this. I just found it real relaxing. Back then I was always in VR. Obviously it doesn't serve great for making videos. And what you found is, if you did this, especially, right, you know, you chop the power to, rather than mill power, you just go to, I don't know, whatever you would use like this for leads, sort of 2/3, whatever. And as long as you start smoothing out, eventually you'd look and you'd realize there was 1, 2, whatever following you. And then as soon as you realize that, you think, right, well, no longer going to fly as low and aggressive as I can tree hugging, but I'm going to ease off. Look at the ice here. This to me suggests, or it looks like this lake here is partially frozen. That looks brilliant. Okay, so that's this part of the map. So again, I'm a big fan. And the final area of the map I want to look at, and we are going to stick ourselves a carrier in because that's part of the fun. Because as you see here, the sea over here, so this is the Pacific, the South Pacific. We see here the fjords coming inland. And so what you can actually do is stick an aircraft carrier somewhere like this. And I can't recall if I've done this on the channel or not, but let's just put the Stennis in there. Is the Stennis was that the original one, or is this the one that's now the super carrier? Anyway, I know that's one of the super carrier ones. You can tell I haven't really been up on DCS that much. So what I'm going to do is, if you see, you can move this around, and I can't seem to move it any further south than, you can see it's sort of getting stuck here and there, but that will be a good spot, and we'll see if we can land on the carrier. And at the same time, it'll be a nice opportunity for us to explore the area. So I'm going to bang it down on the F-18 skill player. I'll come inside. We'll just arm it, you know, once again with the sidewinders. I'm just going to drop some of the fuel off because it'll be a bit easier to land that way. Let's go ahead, give ourselves a high-vis skin. We'll not bother saving it because, well, I don't want to. Hopefully I don't fly straight into a mountain once we begin. We shall see. And I think then you will have had a good... Oh no, there's one other part. There is still the northern part of the map, the new airfields to look at, because it's a lot of fun. If you're into warbird flying and you like giving yourself challenges, look at this. I said we're at risk of flying into a hill. We're actually unusually close to the ground here. It's 6,000 odd, which is where DCS typically likes to start you at if you start in the air, and you see it's actually just 500-600 feet or so from the ground. Okay, so here we are, flying over this flatter area. There's our aircraft carrier. I'm not bothering with tack hands or anything like that. Let's make a move then for it. And again, you can see the stuttering while things loading into place. Let's just... thinking if I just speed up time and do a couple of turns, maybe things might load up quicker. I don't know. You know, if I cover more areas more quickly, they might load up those areas more quickly. At least that's the theory. There's probably somebody who's up on their tech shaking their head at my limited understanding of the situation. Never mind. Always thought, I didn't find it funny, but you know, when you're trying to do your best in making a video, and you know, I'm the first to say I'm not an expert in, well, anything really, but I like to think I know a little bit about a lot of different issues. And so when you say a little bit about a lot, you'll get an expert on one issue and they'll chime in and say, oh, this idiot, I can't believe what this idiot... It's like, yeah, okay. Right, coming in then. So, obviously, standard approach for this carrier is going to be a little bit difficult. As you can see, we're still got these major lag issues as things load in. Now, in theory, that could just be that I've passed that super carrier for the first time since the last DCS update, or however often it is that it cycles the cache files. I do delete them once in a while as well, manually, you know, your meta shaders and all of that sort of stuff, once in a while. It's still not doing it particularly well. What on earth is it with the frames here now? Just down there. And it's a separate issue with DCS still. I've noticed when you're very low and then climbing and then low and then climbing, which I guess is what I'm doing now relative to the ground. And there are these still. Now, apparently this is looking to be fixed with 2.9. I can't wait if that is the case, because I am somebody that enjoys a little bit of flat hatting. Even if it is virtually in DCS, I did it once in real life. I told the story once of it was when I was still in the Air Cadets, and I was on a flying scholarship, and I was with this guy. It was when I don't know how it is in other countries or for those who haven't been in the cadets, but basically you go flying with your squadron sort of, when I was there, it was like every 6 months or something like that. And then gliding was about once a year. And so that give you basically 30, 45 minutes of hands-on, this is what it's like. When you went on the scholarship, obviously you were learning how to fly, and it would end with you going solo. But because you were there for a scholarship, you had more time, and it was just you. There were other people coming and going all the time. You got to build up a bit of a relationship with some of the instructors, and it was, let's just say, those of you that think pilots always follow the rules, because that's what they say on YouTube, don't happen. And yeah, we flew, obviously not in a jet, right? It's a grub shooter, full power. I don't know how fast we were going, but the amount of racket it was making for the speed that we were doing, it seemed ridiculous. And this guy who I was sat with had the full, you know, aviator shade on, and we're going along like this, real low. I looked over, and he's got his shades on, dead serious, hands on throttle and stick, like, you know, in his mind, he was right there on Top Gun in that moment, and I thought it was hilarious. And I know, like I say, there'll be other people that would have looked around in that situation and wouldn't have thought it funny at all, but I thought it was hilarious. In any case, let's see if we can land this. So let's do away with a master arm. Let's go ahead, dump the hook. I realise hook bypass and anti-skid. Oh, let's not be flying towards the mountain when I make that decision. Anti-skid off, hook bypass, or it automatically drops to carrier. Was that based on the skid switch or the hook? I don't know, but I didn't change that, so that was interesting. Alright, I'm also going to open this switch here. just in case I need it. I think I need it now. It's going to help me get this turn. Get the burners out. Down we go. Get rid of that again. Here comes the gear. Somebody's saying he ain't got his flaps down. He ain't got his flaps down. I know. Dim down the heads-up display a tad. Air brakes. Bit of flap. Oh, that was not so good, was it? Alright, I think that'll do. Anyway, you can see you can have a bunch of fun with that if that's your thing. So let's come and let's now take one last look at the end of the map. Now, some of you that are familiar, I did have one person who says, oh, I've heard you before somewhere. And I said, yeah, I have a Fox 3 channel. But what I did was I went to, it was this one up here, this one. And so these bases, this area of the map is new. You may have been able to fly here before, but it didn't really have any detail. As you can see, there is detail galore now. And so what we're going to do, I'll tell you what, rather than take off, we'll start flying over this area here. See, it's about 700 feet or so. I'm just going to, you know, I'm going to play it safe and pick the P-51. I recently landed all the DCS aircraft, or attempted to land them all. On this strip. It was some I could do, others ended in a smoky fire. And I'm just going to empty out the fuel a little bit. Let's give ourselves a more exciting livery. Again, I've just got the default one. There we go. I like that one. Gentleman Jim. Okay. Let's not save. Boom. We should be in a northerly direction by default. As you see, there were two airfields up there. There's one much bigger one that you can obviously take your, you know, all your bigger jets on. But that smaller one, that is the fun one. And this is going to be the end of the video once we get there. So let's just get my throttles and whatnot sort right. 46.27. There we go. Somebody watching who suddenly thinks, he does know something. Yep. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Okay, so this area is leading us towards this village. Let's have a little look on the map. How long is it going to take us? Okay, I didn't realize it was quite... Didn't quite realize the scale. I thought it was a little closer. Let's just hide. Whoops, not that one. Forget my controls. Alt C, there we go. Hide that little pointer. And let's speed up the time. Bit more. Yeah, I didn't want to fly all of this real time with you. I realize time is precious. Here we go. All right, so trim that slip off a little bit, or that skid. So this right here now, if we take a look, is on the very northern edge of the map of Argentina. You actually have to zoom in a bit to see it properly, which is kind of weird. And as you see, there's detail on the area. We've got shrubbery and whatnot down the side of the hills, casting these massive long shadows, which I was particularly impressed by, seeing those very lengthy shadows down the side of the hill. You see there is a slight weird effect as you turn your head. That's obviously been an ongoing issue in DCS for, well, ever since I've flown it, because I first flew DCS now whenever the original Oculus Rift came out, and I wanted to say 6 or 7 years ago now. It was something like that. And DCS back then, you know, and I know some of you are bored with this story, but DCS was the only flight sim that had VR. X-Plane about 6 months later opened this public beta. They added VR, and at that point that became the second. But the point was DCS was the first, and I'm glad it was, because that is what got me flying DCS in the first place. I hadn't heard of it before. I was just, you know, Microsoft, well, FSX as it was back then, Flight Sim X, X-Plane. And then I thought, you know, is there a flight sim that has VR? And that's the story. Anyway, here we go. So let's do the overhead brake in the Warbird sense, and then we'll come into land. So shut up for a minute and we'll go for it. Just realised I've got my gun safety on, but whatever. Bit of left rudder, let's have a look round. Not quite yet. Keep it going, keep it going. Nose down. And we'll start rolling off around there. Okay. Let's trim back a tad so I can let go of the controls, because I just need to hide my guy a sec. I want to put the safety, there we go. Right, there we go, back here. Just realised I could have done that without hiding my guy. Right, put on a bit of power, just tiniest bit, just to get rid of that horn. I'm starting to dump a little bit of flap, just a little bit more power, put the gear. I'm just going to swap the, where are we? How do I, best, hang on, can I, there we go, just swapping the fuel tank over, because I realised we was flying off one tank all that time. So gear down, I'm going to go flaps full now, continuing the turn-ish, gentle, so I can sort of see the runway for as long as possible while still on approach. Don't want to get too slow, because I've got to pull up. So I limp over the tree. There we go. I think that should do it. Come on. Bit of a bounce there. Oh. I need to brake. Face of concentration, no doubt, as I do so. Careful I don't slap the prop. And let's unhook the stick. And there you go. Loads of room spare. Come on, you could. Oh, I've got another plane's worth of width to go. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope I showed you some of the best parts of the Atlantic map. It is a shame. I was doing a look a few days ago, how many people actually fly on this map. So I went on the multiplayer page, and I took a look. I ranked it by players from the top, and of course you've got Caucasus, Syria, Caucasus, and then maybe, you know, the Sinai map or whatever, the World War II, the Normandy map, all the way. And it was like, I couldn't see, and it was only until it got to like a server that had 2 or 3 players on was the very first time that I saw the Falklands map, which is unfortunate. And this, I guess I should end the video with this. It's a little piece of advice to developers, and I'm sure they probably already know, but or most of them do, but I'm going to say it anyway, and that is, when you release a product for DCS, or probably any other game, but DCS in particular, right, you've got a huge crowd of people that are eagerly awaiting for this release, okay? They know it's coming, they see it in the newsletters, it's hyped up by all the people that sort of repeat the newsletters and make videos about it, so everybody's waiting. If then you release it, and they don't have early access to it, which was a decision made a while ago, I understand. Basically, they don't give free early access to new modules anymore. They did in the very early days, but they've since changed that. In other words, people either have to buy the module, whether it's a map, a plane, or they have to forego the early access price and then wait ages until it's in the sale, right? That's the options. So they either buy it early access, roll the dice, or they wait. If the only thing they have to go on is other people who are showing the map, and again, people who are showing the map like I do in a realistic way, not just cutting all the bad bits out. Every time there's a lag spike, we'll cut that out. Every time some of the ground doesn't look good or the shadows flip, we'll cut all of that out. We'll only show you the best cinematic bits. We'll shoot shots again, and they'll work on, like when I really worked on a video, it would take me 1 hour of work to make 1 minute's worth of video. When you have people doing that to showcase the best of the map and they still can't make it look appealing, I say nobody, you can have a very few people buy the map. The hardcore people, as myself, that kind of buy everything for DCS. And then what happens is 6 months later, a year later, you go, yeah, but look, we've improved it now. We've worked on it now. And it's like, yeah, but you've missed the boat with the majority of the people because they're all waiting for the next best thing. They don't care what was released a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago, whether it's been updated or not. They're waiting for the next thing. That is the way of the world. And that is also how it works in DCS world. So I do want to finish with that. And again, to anybody else, I hope you enjoyed the video. And yeah, I can highly recommend this map. It is a lot of fun. And I'm sure if I was to sort of clear out all my cache settings and fly around and let all the cache stuff build up, or wait for DCS 2.9. I mean, I don't want to assume anything because I don't know DCS 2.9 as of right now, which is 2:45 on the 17th of October, is not yet out. All right, I hope you enjoyed. Take care. Bye-bye.